Here, Mike wants to know, who is the next big thing in wrestling?
You know what? If I had that answer, I can assure you that me and Conrad would have them under contract. But I've said it over and over. And I will tell you one guy that is at least getting up to bat, at least taking the shot that, and I've said it over and over and over, the guy, the talent, so I don't say guy or girl, who figures out how to maximize social media is, I mean, it just, without a doubt, you just put them out in front. I mean, Logan Paul, I mean, he comes from that world, great athlete, but man, he's kind of been immersed in the world of professional wrestling, and it's the social media. So I'm certainly not comparing here because it's not even close. But our man Big Big Bishop is a guy that is trying to make some noise on social media, and the talent that I try to, follow as many people. I got a passion for it. I love professional wrestling, and I like to see how things grow or not grow, and the reason this and that, and not just in the United States but internationally, and just the different metrics and all that. But social media is your ticket because it can set you apart just immediately. Everybody's on their phone. Everybody wants to create down at the Predators Bridgestone. I was talking to one of those guys, and they're like, yes, every hockey fan that comes through there, they want to be a part of the experience of what happens in this and that. And, they have all kinds of drinks and foods and this and that. But one of their VIP suite areas is it's all about the experience. And so the talent that can dial in to social media in a unique, compelling, engaging way that's repeatable, anything that is going to have success, I think, in this world is how can you figure out not just do it one time, but in a repeatable. And Conrad, we've chuckled and kind of looked at different things, but old Big Ben is headed down that road. He's 6'10", decent body. His work, he's not gonna have the next banger, but is he going to engage with the audience? You bet your ass. So who do I think's the next big thing? The person who maximizes social media the best. And shout out to Big Ben Bishop because he's given it a hell of an effort, and we'll just kind of see where that goes.
John over on Twitter wants to know, if TNA ever finds itself on the market and for sale, is there any chance that Jeff would make inquiries into purchasing, or is that a closed book for Jeff?
Oh, and Mr. Cantrell Staley, I'll finish your tweet that Conrad did not say. Jarrett Thompson. I'm going to flip that. Thompson Jarrett could make TNA great again. Well, that's
TNA's pretty good right now, by the way.
That's
Folks need to quit sleeping on it and go watch it.
Exactly. Look, like anything, anything in the wrestling business, I really am. I'm interested at, and what would what do they value it at? People get into these valuations, and I don't care what it is. You can come up with all the valuations you want in the world. You got to find a buyer, period. And then that buyer has to agree with that valuation. Other than that, it's just great fodder, if you will. And look, I'm not discounting tax situations and all that kind of stuff, but certainly I'd take a look at anything. And if Conrad says let's do it, I'd say let's do it.
Oh shit. Any good stories of working with TNT Motorsports monster trucks and tractor trailer pulling during the Renegade/Red Man Tobacco promotion days?
Buddy, I don't know what year it was, but my old man, it was always a dreamer, and he just liked to think big. And he was a big part of the early days of monster trucks and putting it on TV and creating TV shows out of it. And then in those days, it was syndicating. Cable television wasn't, it was around and it was growing, but syndication, there was going to be a massive amount of money. And I'm talking about the early days of Bigfoot and everything that went with that. Well, you couldn't advertise tobacco or all the kind of restrictions. And that's where, when I look at the late 80s and USWA, it wasn't even called USDA at that point, our Red Man promotion, and we did Renegades, which was just a brand of Pinkerton Tobacco Company. Those are the ones that wrote the checks. They were huge. They were and that's when I kind of look at my old man and sponsorship money. I don't want to say ahead of his time, because I was not in the DNA of Crockett and World Class and all the other promotions and WWE and everything that went with that. But I know the dollars that were being pulled in, and how it helped and how it gave opportunities. My dad, that tobacco money, it found money, if you will. And he loved to do those kind of promotions. And, we got the ring mat. I'll never forget. I think Scott Steiner, I don't say it was his first kind of break, but they had a Renegade Rampage tournament, and my dad wanted to make Scott the winner of it all. And Scotty would never use tobacco. And I think they had that discussion. But that was the first time that we put a logo, and had the logo hand painted. Crappy job, Territory Days, but I mean, there was a logo put on the mat, and the banners that were used on Memphis TV. It was a big deal, and it was all driven by a tobacco company that wanted to write check, because they wanted to be branded, because they dominated motorsports, but they wanted to get into others. So yeah, tobacco money was very, very good to Jarrett Enterprises back in the day.
Ari has a great question. Super Clash 3. It's a running joke that rival promoters couldn't agree on lunch. Why did Jerry think working with Vern could actually work?
Great. Well, and Fritz, yeah. Well, yeah, it was still Fritz. I think at that point they had witnessed Conrad. Super Clash 3 was 88, I think. So you would have had how many WrestleManias by that time? 4, 5?
Yeah, 88 was 4.
Okay, so the proof was in the pudding that Vince McMahon had taken a time slot that at one time was old Joe Blanchard in the USA Network, however it may be. But I mean, they had blown up in a huge way. What was that show? Tuesday Night Titans? Because this is pre-Raw. But anyway, the model that Vince McMahon have taken it national was massive, and they were, and I say the territory promoters, who were all older than Vince or much older, knew that the new kid on the block was kicking ass. And although, WCW would come in, and my dad and Lawler would come up with the right strategy, for the most part, they saw them coming in, paying for TV, doing good numbers, and then doing house shows twice a year, 3 times a year, with much bigger houses. Vince's plan was working, and the Territory Days were dying. And I kind of think it was I think in a lot of ways, hindsight being 2020, that was a Hail Mary for all 3 of them. Hey, can we make this work out? And it didn't. It didn't, which goes to the fundamental, how to say this, the fundamental basics of the professional wrestling business is you got to have one person where the buck stops there. Hence, WCW died. There was too many bosses.